Thank you to beYogi and for the opportunity to be with your community and be part of it. All of from our law firm, every single person that we've ever sent to beYogi has been extremely satisfied with their insurance, with the customer service, with the relationship. So it's like being aligned with such a cool, awesome company means a lot to me. So I want to thank you for that. And to everybody, hi, nice to meet you. If this is our first time meeting, then nice to meet you. If we've met before, nice to see you again. As Lizzie did mention starting off, I'm a big snack guy. So I like eats, I like foods, I like drinks. So maybe in the chat, if everybody wants to chat, just put in maybe what snack they've got with them. Or if you don't have any snacks, if you could dream any snack up, what you would dream. I think usually having some form of food would help. And I see that Manuel Flores has yerba mate as well. So happy to hear about that. Yeah, we've got professional snackers. We've got some coffee, pineapple. Like this, actually, maybe the webinar could just be talking about the snacks that we're eating and consuming the whole time. So I'm just super stoked about this. Lentil pasta is great. Soy milk. Okay, perfect. So I just want everyone to feel comfortable enough that you can have your snacks. You can have your snack and eat it too. That's really the whole point of all of this. But just to create a fun environment for the different things that we're gonna do as we chat about all of this. So I want to set a little bit of the expectation straight for what the point of this talk today is. As Lizzie mentioned, I'm a lawyer. I've got a law firm that operates online. We started in 2017. And I started the first crux of my client base was really yoga professionals. And it came to me at a time where I was working at a big law firm. I was wearing a suit and tie. Now I'm not, as you can see. I'm in Brazil, by the way. Hi, from Brazil. I live in a little kite surfing town. I'm going to go kite surfing after this call, which is very exciting. But basically, I was working in big law, wearing a suit at the office, all the things, and didn't feel aligned or connected with any of the work that I was doing. And at the same time, I was living in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I was practicing yoga a lot. All of my friends were yogis. I would go to work and basically go to the yoga studio afterwards. And it just naturally happened that I started my legal practice helping my friends, right? Which is such a cool way to use the skills that we have. I'm sure everyone who's listening as a yoga professional knows. And then I entered the space. I realized there wasn't any help there. I was having the same conversation with everyone about the law as it pertains to yoga professionals. I realized no one knew anything about how the system actually works or what people actually need to be protected. So I took my business online, 2017. So 3 years before COVID, before it was sort of normal to do it. And I went to India and I lived in an ashram and I did a yoga teacher training. And then I got deeper into the world of, my personal practice, but also deeper into the world of practice to help the yoga community be well protected for issues that they come up against. That around the same time, I wrote the Yoga Law book in 2018 or 2019, I can't really remember. And I wrote that book because I was literally having the same conversation every day with clients. I was like, don't you know about intellectual property rights and an independent contractor agreement? And everyone would be like, what? Well, I didn't know any of that. I just invited my friend to join, or I borrowed this contract from a teacher or from a friend. And so I was like, oh, why don't I write a book that captures the story of a issue or problem I went through with each client and then share with the world? So I did that, and it's available on Amazon that you can grab. And it's really fun, and it was super fun to write. Since that time, I guess in the past 4 years, my law firm Conscious Counsel has just grown immensely. Now I'm working with yoga, with Pilates, with energy healers, with health coaches, with all different sorts of professionals. And these webinars have sort of morphed. They're constantly morphing and constantly evolving, as all good things should. And it sort of has morphed into story time, where I share different stories that I'm going through with my clients and different mistakes that my clients make or assumptions that they make. And then once I do that, you hopefully can see the way that law relates to you and like, oh, this is such a similar experience that I have, or that I'm going through, or that I could see myself going through. So that's the intention of the call today, just for me to basically open up my mind and share a little bit about the experiences that I have, how I see the legal system working for and against yoga professionals who operate online or in person or whatever it is that you do, and just to have fun doing it and have a relaxed, casual environment to make it happen. So this in terms of questions, this is how it's sort of going to work. I'm going to firstly talk about a really cool contest that our law firm is running. Then I'm going to give a basic legal big picture perspective, a way that you've never heard it before, in a really fun and approachable way, because what I want is everyone to understand how the law actually works for and against a yoga professional. So I'm going to just share some really basic concepts that if you walk away with those basic concepts, we've won the day. We've done it. I will feel super fulfilled that I've shared the information and my approach. And then I'm going to talk about some specific agreements that we work with and issues that we run into. And once I do that, I'll open up for questions. But also, if I don't have enough time, I may just leave it open the last 10 minutes or so to answer any questions that anyone might have. So I just want to quickly start off by sharing something really exciting that we're doing at Conscious Counsel. And basically, to celebrate National Yoga Month, which I know beYogi is really into, I've decided to give an $1,000 scholarship to one member of the Conscious Counsel community, wherever they are. The contest runs for the whole month. So I'm going to put the link right here. And basically, all that you have to do to enter this contest to be eligible for to win the $1,000 is sign up, and then automatically you're in. And the question is, okay, why am I doing this? Why does this make sense? I work with so many different clients in the yoga space who I feel like there's like, everyone has like that dream thing they want to do for their business. Lizzie, I'm not sure if Lizzie, I'm going to post it to you. Thank you so much. You got it. So the reason why I'm doing this is so many of my clients are like, oh, I really, really want to do this. Like, I want my business to take off and I want to invest in working with that coach that I love, or I want to spend more money on online advertising, or I want to add a new member to my team, or whatever it is. So for me, in the spirit of giving back, I thought, why not do a fun contest that, you know, connects everyone through social media and helps build community, but also that people, all they have to do to enter is put in their email address and have a chance at winning $1,000 for the business. So that's to celebrate National Yoga Month. We're together. I'm excited about it. I hope that if you want something, that you're the one who gets this, and enjoy the whole process around that. So that's sort of first things first. We've dealt with that. Now I'm going to take a moment, if everyone has their snacks, and I just want to explain a little bit about how I see the legal system operate for yoga professionals. And there's two major concepts that I want to introduce that are really, really important. And hopefully in doing so, everyone will be able to change the way that they look about the law. Because what I find is there's two moments. There's the moment before a problem happens, and there's a moment after the problem happens. And my goal with everyone who I work with is that they are as best protected as possible before any problems or issues come up, so that, God forbid, if there is an issue, it will be easy, simple, and streamlined to deal with any such problems, because you can rely on your legal documents and your legal position. So the first word that I want to introduce to everyone and bring to your attention is a term that is called legal position. Okay, legal position. If you've got pen and paper, you can write down legal position. And this is a really, really important concept, because your legal position, what a legal position is in the event that there's a dispute or a problem or an issue between any two people, the one who has the stronger legal position is going to be in control of the situation, is going to be able to dictate the terms of how everything's going to go moving forward, and is the one who is able to choose how much energy they want to spend on this or not. Now, the best way to have a strong legal position, and I'm going to give an example of this, the best way to have a strong legal position is to, for the different relationships you have in law, to have signed, customized legal agreements that are protecting you in your best interest, full stop. That is the best way to have a legal position. So what does that mean? In a very practical way, when you have agreements that reflect the relationships specifically for your business and are doing what it is that you want to do in the way that you want to do it, and let's say a problem comes up. So someone gets injured in class, maybe you have an independent contractor who works for you, there was a problem and you want to get rid of them and fire them. Let's say there's someone who you've been working with you've had challenges in working with them and explaining certain things to them, or they're acting in a disrespectful way in the environment of the studio or working with you, whatever it is, an issue comes up. When you have documents that protect you and protect your interest and are customized and specific to your industry and your business, you can get rid of that problem in less than 30 seconds. All that it really takes is one email to deal with the situation. Once you do so, no problem, all taken care of. Here's an example of what that looks like, okay? I'm thinking back to last month. One of my clients has a yoga studio in Virginia, and there was a student who was acting in a very aggressive way. They were making other teachers feel, they were making the teachers feel uncomfortable, and they were making other participants in the group feel uncomfortable. Just wasn't a good thing that was happening. And I had drafted a studio membership agreement for this client. So I get an email from the client. Hey, Cory, I'm sorry to bother you. We're having this problem with the student. They're making other students uncomfortable. Now, other people want to cancel their membership if this person's going to be there. Some members of my staff are threatening to quit in the event that we can't resolve this. All these sorts of problems. So now I give my response. The issue comes up, right? There's always in law, there's always an issue. That's my email box is filled with issues that it's my job to resolve. The issue comes up, and then I send a response to this email to my client, and I say the magic words that lawyers are always going to say. I'm going to say, okay, firstly, everything's going to be okay. Secondly, please send me a signed copy of the agreement you have with this student. 4 minutes later, voila, beautiful, like a perfect yerba mate shows up for me. I see an email, hey, Cory, as requested, here's the signed agreement from the client. I'm looking through, it's the agreement that we drafted for them. There was a part of it, a Schedule B, that had expectations. The expectation said, by coming to the studio, I agree that I will act in a proper way. I will not make others feel uncomfortable by, any racist behavior, any prejudicial behavior, any homophobic behavior, anything like that. All of the things in there. I said, can you objectively demonstrate that this person has breached the agreement? Yes. I write an email, 2 sentences to the member. Hi, this is Cory Sterling. I am acting attorney for this studio, for Studio X. Here's attached a copy of your signed agreement. You have breached the provisions in Schedule B 2, 4, and 6 by virtue of this behavior. You are no longer welcome at the studio. Do not show up. You are not entitled to a refund for the remaining balance of your membership because you broke this agreement. If you enter the space, my client reserves the right to call the authorities and blah, blah, blah. Any further communication should be directly with me. Finished. Done. Issue that, and I'm telling you, and I hopefully no one on this call has ever had legal issues before, but the relief from my client, this was like plaguing my client for so long. And that's why I love my job, because I get to take something that's a big issue and something that's really uncomfortable and resolve it immediately for my client. So that's an example of, boom, airtight legal position. That person, just responded and, okay, I will not be showing up. Like, they're obviously very scared. But the reason why we were able to scare them is because we had legal position. Because I was able to demonstrate, hey, before my client allowed you to practice yoga with them, you agreed ABC, you broke those agreements. Now this is how the relationship works because you broke this. There we go. Okay, so I can't see anyone, but just give me a thumbs up if this makes sense and you love it and you're having fun. Okay, I feel the energy of all of our thumbs up together. That's because we're talking about like the good legal position proactive thing. Now, what does it look like? What does it look like when you do not have a good legal position? And I'll go through this story, and these are stories that happened to me. And again, my life as a lawyer is drafting agreements and opening emails of stories of what my clients are going through and supporting them. And I have a lot of the latter. But basically, one that comes to mind was speaking with a client last week who's having an issue with one of the members of staff. So first things first, this person's an employee. They're the studio manager. There is no employee agreement. There is nothing written between the parties about how the relationship should be dictated, what the expectations are, what qualifies as unacceptable behavior, none of those things. The studio manager has a lot of responsibilities, is very deeply integrated in the business, and they have been clashing a lot as of late to having heated arguments. So I'm gonna, if you feel like you're having deja vu, maybe you are, maybe you're not, but I get an email from my client who's very upset. I say, okay, no problem. And I do the thing that I always do. I say, please send me a signed copy. You can say it along with me. Please send me a signed copy of the agreement. Okay. And I get an email back, not 4 minutes later, because usually when it happens often that clients apologize. They don't have to apologize to me. But anyways, I get a response back. We've never signed an employee agreement. This person has been with me for 3 years. Okay. Now, because we don't have an agreement that in all of those first situations that solidified our legal position as being super strong, now, because we have a less strong legal position, the other party has more leverage. And the way that we're able to resolve and get rid of the problem becomes much more difficult, much more delicate, much more time consuming, and much more expensive. And these are the things that I don't want for my client. And it's sort of like, like I wrote a book, I record videos, I write newsletters, I share stories, I do everything that I can to try to educate my community. And sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's okay that it doesn't happen. But basically, this situation had gone from something that could have been resolved in 3 minutes by, you're an employee for the company, here are examples of how you behave, you breached this, this, and this. Accept this as termination of your working relationship with us. Everything's finished and done. But we're not able to go that route. So now the client has to pay me a bunch of money, and I'm going back and forth with the employee and trying to fix the mess and organize it. All the while, the studio owner is unfortunately a hot mess, because this is your business, it's your baby, it's your child, you love it, you don't want anything to happen to it, all those sorts of things. And I can't tell you how many times I've said to my clients, like, hey, I wish that this was done. I wish, you would have just come to me and I could have gotten you an employment agreement because we could have resolved this. So on a very, very macro level, that's what we're dealing with. That's what I do as a yoga lawyer, as a lawyer who works with yoga professionals. I basically try to give my clients the best legal position possible, whether that is advising them in signing a lease or customizing agreements for them or supporting them or answering questions about non-competes or intellectual property or whatever it is. This is the bulk of my work. So I'm gonna let that sink in for a moment. And if anyone has any questions at this point, I'm not going to be able to read the chat just because there's so much going on. But Lizzie, I don't know if you're around. Maybe if there's any questions, you could read them out and we can quickly go through them before I talk about the 4 key agreements that I see yoga professionals needing. Lizzie, also, if you just like, oh, cool.
I am here. Don't worry. I
didn't know, and I didn't want to assume. And if this is like, I appreciate it.
You're good. Alrighty, so I did have one question. Really, everyone's just loving you, Cory, and a lot of fun engagement in the chat. But I did see one question about, let me pull it up. So there's someone, I don't remember who, but we were talking about waivers of liability, and he asked, would this advice work for Bermuda? He said, we're based on the English system of law.
Yeah. Okay, Bermuda. Firstly, what's up? I was in Bermuda and I got a rugby shirt that says Bermuda Rugby. Does that answer your question? I'm joking. Obviously, you don't care about that. Okay, yeah. So the English legal system, and I know this doesn't relate to everyone, so I'll make it quick, is based on common law, and Canada and Australia are also based on common law. So it would be easy to draft a waiver of liability that could be applicable to common law rules in Bermuda. But and now I'll sort of use this, if that's the only question we've got, I'll transition this to talk about waivers because everyone always wants to talk about waivers. And so I'll keep in mind the Bermuda part when we chat about it, but the answer is that yes, for sure. And the other thing to know really that's important about legal agreements, and this is, and before I get to waivers, I just want to do one last thing as we're, transforming the way that we think about the law and how it works and what we really need. If whoever has a pen and paper, like you can do a really quick exercise. That's a lot of fun and interesting to see and to look at things, but you basically want to take a piece of paper and you write either your name or the name of the business in the middle of the paper, and think about all the different relationships that you have in your business, right? So let's say, okay, so I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and I have a studio. So I have a relationship with my landlord, which obviously is outlined by the lease. Let's say I have an LLC and I have a member, a business partner. And so I have an LLC and a business partner, and we have an operating agreement. That would be one relationship in one document. Then obviously, to protect myself from liability, I have waivers of liability. Maybe I have teachers who are teaching. Are they contractors? Are they employees? All of that. Then I have a relationship with all of my students, and through the membership agreement. And I also operate online, so I'm collecting information and I'm doing things on social media. Am I protected for that? And the goal of writing down each of the relationships is, I'm a visual learner, so for me it always helps to see things that way. But really the overarching goal that you want to have for each of these relationships is some form of documentation, ideally something that's specific to the yoga industry and the business that you have, that communicates expectations openly and honestly in the document. And the reason why that this is important is because as someone who in some ways professionally resolves problems, like people come to me with problems and I always just have to find a way to fix the problem, ideally without going to court and without getting sued. And I'm very grateful to say, knocking on wood, I've worked with over 1,000 clients, and none of my clients have actually gotten sued. Like no one's actually been sued, papers and a file commenced against them. And that's because I always find a way to resolve it before it comes up. But most of the time, when you have someone who has signed an agreement where expectations have communicated openly and honestly, you will find a greater sense of common sense and practicality amongst them. Even if there's someone who's totally impractical and, causing a problem at your studio to the point that you need to engage a lawyer, that's okay. But it's very different when you can show them like, hey, here's a document that you signed before I allowed us to work together. Clearly, you are breaking the agreement that we signed. Therefore, you have no legal position, or don't come back again, or you're not getting a refund, or I'm not responsible for your injuries, or whatever it is. And so I would say, in terms of the question of Bermuda, like, yes, Bermuda, there's common law, so it will apply to similar statutes that there is in the UK and Great Britain. But more than that, like, God forbid, let's say something happens. If you're able to demonstrate like, hey, you signed this agreement and this is what it said, and you said you weren't going to hold me responsible, and the risk that we mentioned actually did materialize. When you're able to do that, there's a different sense of communication and responsibility within the relationship. And so, as you can see, I'm in Brazil. Like I mentioned, I built an online law firm. I only do services that do not require me to be physically present. So I've done one hearing in my life, and I'm 1-0. So like, I'm out, I'm done, batting 1,000%. I never lost. I'm undefeated. I think I'm good. But I only did one thing that required some form of litigation, and that was done through telephone. And I made sure that it was that way before. But everything that I do is designed just to be done from anywhere. And so all of my experiences are different than other lawyers because, like, I'm a yoga teacher and I get what it's about, and all my clients work in this industry. So it's easy to relate and understand the specifics of what you're going through. But I think, but more than that, I'm just so used to dealing with issues in this way. When you have a document that was signed by both parties that communicates the specific expectations, and it takes it from there. So it's a little bit long-winded, but I wanted to get a little bit of headway on explaining what it looks like in terms of practicality. So that being said, I'm going to talk about the four agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz. Let's talk about them. Always try your best. don't take things personally. Oh my God. I always don't take things personally. Always try your best. Can someone help me out in the comments? The 4 agreements. Don't make assumptions. And I forget number 4, maybe at the end, someone will, it's a great book if you haven't read the 4 agreements, but I'm going to talk about the 4 legal agreements that we need as yoga professionals to protect ourselves. And I'm going to do that in the next 20 minutes. And so, what I'd like to do after that is I'll open it up for Q&A, and I'll talk about a special offer that I have available for everyone who's on the call. So these 4 agreements, based on, what I shared about relationships and communicating expectations, it's the 4 agreements that I see yoga professionals needing is the waiver of liability, which we're going to start with, the client service agreement, also called a membership agreement, the privacy policy in terms of service, and then a social media disclaimer for all of the different things that you're doing online. So other agreements that are not included in this, which anyone can ask questions on, independent contractor, employee, that stuff comes up a lot. I have a lot of clients who operate retreats. And so when I'm talking about these 4 core agreements, I'm going to try to make it as expansive as possible to apply to everyone as much as I can. And so, yeah, so please let me know if you have questions when we get to that 10-minute mark. The other thing that I'd like to do as well, and there's going to be a special offer today, but I'm going to do this now. If anyone wants to, Lizzie, if you don't mind to post this, I opened up some times after this webinar if anybody wants to hop on a call and have a free consult. So obviously those who receive this later will not get this privilege or this benefit. But if you're talking and you're like, yeah, Cory, I want to chat, I want to explain what I'm going through. And I'll thank you very much. So Lizzie's posted the consult. If you're interested in getting protected and you have some questions, I've booked the next hour off. So first come, first serve. The 4 agreements are, and I'm going to go through them in detail: waiver of liability, service agreement, which is also called a membership agreement. This is the agreement for the relationship you have with your yoga students, the privacy policy in terms of service, and then lastly is the social media disclaimer for everything that you're doing online. So to start things off, I'm going to talk about waivers of liability, and I'm going to try to do it in 6 minutes, which I can. And the most important thing that you have to know about why a waiver of liability exists is that for you as a yoga teacher, you have something that is called a duty of care. Anytime that you're teaching yoga to someone, a duty of care means that, okay, there's a relationship established between us, even though it's invisible, where I'm the teacher, I'm facilitating, and you are the student. And I have a responsibility as the teacher to make sure that you do not get injured or suffer damages by virtue of the services that I am facilitating for you. Okay, that's called a duty of care. I have a duty to make sure that you stay in good care and do not suffer damages. Now, the thing to know about a duty of care is that it's going to apply if you are doing things for free. Like I've a lot of clients who do free yoga for, supporting at-risk youth communities or helping cancer patients or the terminally ill or whatever it is that's going on, like incredible, amazing work. And they'll always say like, oh, but I'm doing it for free. Does it still matter? You have a duty of care. Whether a duty of care does not matter if you are paying or if you're not paying. The standard of care is higher, which is a whole other conversation, which we don't need to get into. But basically you have to know, okay, cool. Why do I need this? I'm offering services to someone and I'm responsible if they suffer damages as a result. Full stop. That's all that's going on here. So the next thing is, okay, well, obviously businesses wouldn't be able to function if everyone was always at risk of getting sued by everyone, which, I mean, the litigious state of the United States and Canada is an example of this, but it's just very, very risky for business owners to operate knowing that they have such liability that, oh my God, everyone who I teach yoga to, I have a duty of care to. So the government and the court say, okay, cool, we get that this duty of care exists, and we're going to give you an opportunity to mitigate your liability by having people sign a document called a waiver of liability. And what that waiver of liability means is before you allow someone to participate in the activity, so before the duty of care is triggered, you can get them to sign a paper that has to be super clear and super specific to what it is that you're doing and how you do it. And basically, that document has to say like, hey, these are the things that we're going to be doing together. These are the risks of what we're doing together. And I'll repeat this and I'll go slowly. But so firstly, like, hey, these are the activities. We're doing yoga online, in person, in outdoors, and on demand, and through evergreen content, through recorded classes. So we're going to be doing yoga. This is the type of yoga we're doing. And, you know, you're going to be in these positions and there's going to be inversions, all those sorts of things. Okay. Next, this is the equipment that we're going to be using. We're going to be using blocks and straps, and we're going to be using mats and balls and light weights and whatever. Okay. List all the things. Okay, let's say we're doing this activity with this equipment. Here's an example of something that could go wrong. You could break a bone, you could hit your head, you could have a concussion, you could experience emotional pain, whatever damages someone could suffer. And then let's say if that risk materializes, this is how your life would be affected. You would suffer pain and injury and damages, and you could lose your quality of living. That could change substantially. You may not be able to earn as much money as you would otherwise, all those sorts of things. Now, like, that's really the crux of what this agreement is. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. This is the equipment that we're using for it. If we do exactly what we say we're going to do, if we do the activity we say we're going to do in the way we're going to do it with the equipment that we're using, this is how you could get hurt. And in the event that you get hurt, this is how you could be impacted by getting hurt. Okay? So everything is there, has to be specific. The next thing says, okay, cool. I've told you everything. A, you promise that you're healthy enough and that you've seen a doctor. That's your responsibility. B, you voluntarily are participating in these activities. And C, you agree not to hold us responsible in the event that you get injured doing the activities the way that we demonstrated, and one of those risks materializes. That's the waiver of liability. That's all that it is. It sounds simple. I've spent years and years and years dealing with this one document more than all others. But I just want to take a moment here, and I'm happy to share a story. And two very, very quick stories. And again, every time I tell a story, I can tell like a story about where it was done properly and one where it was not done properly. So there was one where one of our clients had a yoga studio. They also had a bar, sort of like a Pilates bar that was there. The bar was listed in the equipment. They were using the bar for stretching. It was like a bar yoga hybrid class, which was on their schedule as such. Someone suffered damages from the bar. The bar fell down in the middle. Okay, all the things. Person's injured. I want all my money back. I want this. I want that. Waiver of liability. Provision 2, equipment, bar. Provision 4, types of injuries, muscle strains, damages, discomfort. Provision 8, you agree not to hold us responsible if one of the risks actualizes. Perfect. Thumbs up if you love it. I know that you love it, even though I can't see anyone. I'm just looking at myself giving thumbs up, but I'm actually giving 2. So yeah. So amazing. Now a situation where now I have a client who operates a gym. This wasn't in yoga, but this is in gym. This wasn't too long ago. And some of the equipment's mounted on a wall. They borrowed a waiver from someone else, didn't have any of the specifics of the equipment they were using or the types of risks. They were using that particular equipment on the wall. It failed. They hit their head. They were hurt. Same story. Get the email from the client. They're freaking out. Hey, it's okay. Send me a copy of the signed agreement. Hey, Cory, you're going to be really mad at me. Firstly, I'm not mad at you. It's your business. It's your money. So I'm not mad. I want to support you. You're going to be really mad at me, but I was using my friend's waiver who opened a gym 12 years ago. Like, that's how that story goes. Nothing there about that particular equipment. Nothing there about head injuries. Completely different ballgame. And so then now they're paying me thousands and thousands of dollars to fix this for them, to negotiate on their behalf. And it's not good. So that's the waiver of liability. And if anyone has any questions, you can just write them down. And when we get to 10 minutes left, you can hop in. But that's a super, super important agreement. And A, it's important for peace of mind. B, I think it's important for respect with your clients to communicate openly and honestly exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it. And C, this is the one that protects your assets. So think about how hard how much time you spend working on your business and growing your business, it deserves to be protected with the appropriate legal documents by professionals who get it. The second agreement is the service agreement. So it's called a service agreement. And sorry, I'm just going to go open waivers up for 1 second. If you're running a retreat, you need to list all the activities of the retreat, all of the equipment, because the big thing about a waiver is only as good as the specifics that it details out. Remember, I've explained the whole history of legal position and why the documents need to have this. If the document doesn't say something, the assumption is that it was excluded on purpose. So if you're doing things, let's say you're doing acro yoga, you do partner yoga in your studio or something like that, and the waiver doesn't say anything, that person has signed away their rights for doing yoga in the ways that you described, but they never signed away their rights for hanging upside down in someone else's legs when you don't have foam padding. That was like another story from years ago. So I just mean to say, if you're doing retreats as well, like you swimming, hiking. I have a story with a client that ran retreats, didn't have waiver signed. They were hiking, someone fell off the side of a mountain. This is a bad story, broke all of their teeth and broke their bones. They're both bones in their arm. So not fun, way less fun when you don't have a waiver of liability, but these things happen, and that's why we plan accordingly. So, okay, service agreement. Service agreement is anytime that someone is paying you to provide services for them. So this could be as a one-on-one yoga teacher. It could be as like a yoga therapy coach. It could be for a studio that you have. It could be for a workshop that you're running. It's for anything. This is the relationship between you and your clients. Really important. It's going to be the first document they sign when they start working with you. So you want as much information in there as possible. And really, sort of like I said, the goal with all documents is to communicate expectations openly and honestly. This document is where you do that. Hey, this is what you can expect of us. This is what the services are going to be. This is how we're doing the services. This is, what you can expect. And these are the hours. And if you need to cancel, this is the cancellation fee. And if you want to pause your membership, this is how it works. And if you're buying a class at 10 packs, this is how it works. So really, like, my clients who have the best relationship with their community are the ones who have the best membership agreements or service agreements, because it's like, again, anytime you resolve a problem, all that you have to do is just send that really quick email of just like, hey, like, I love you. I'm so happy you're part of my community. When we started working together, we told you that we do not accept students who come late. The past 2 times you've come 3 minutes late to class. Here's a copy of the signed agreement. Is there anything that we can do to support you to showing up on time? Like, that's how you really get results from what I've seen. And then from a legal perspective, this is the document that will deal with most of the consumer protection issues that may come up. So for example, if you accept money on an auto pay or like a auto renewing process, there are different laws that you need to have in place so that if someone disputes the payment, that it will be very easy for you to keep it. Or if somebody wants a refund, you can demonstrate, the agreement that you had and how everything was done properly to protect you and communicate, and it's taken care of in that particular way. So, yeah, the service agreement is like, the waiver is the one that stops you from getting sued and can like sort of halt that. The membership agreement is the one that lets you keep the money that you worked so hard to bring in. So you're not getting too many refund requests or people wanting to leave on their own terms, or if you have, again, like the story I shared, any behavioral issues from your community. You're going to want that to be all of that in writing, like, this is what our space is about. Respect, punctuality, positive attitude, whatever, like you create it, and then you can hold others to be enforceable to that. So the service agreement is where you'd put all of that sort of information. The next agreement would be the privacy policy in terms of service. This is way more important now than it's ever been, just because of the sheer way of how we are leveraging technology and using personal information from people. So basically, with privacy policies, it's all about the collection of personal information. So I have a business and I'm, capturing your first name, your last name, and your email address. There are a whole lot of rules in 2023 that you have to follow anytime you do that. But even more so, let's say you're using third parties, like you have an app that you send people through. you have to include, you need a document with a link to that third party to outline what information you keep and how all of it works. It's same with like if you're using PayPal or Venmo or Stripe or Square or any way that you collect payment. If you're the one that's facilitating someone sharing their personal information, like payment details with a third party, it has to be documented in writing that, hey, this is the information that we're going to be either taking ourselves or that we're going to be sharing the facilitation of. Here is a link to these privacy policies if you have any questions. Of all of the time that I've done this, the issue with privacy policies never comes up where someone's like, oh, like, hey, what email do you have for me on file? Because I really want to change that. That's not where it comes up. It's something that's mandatory, that's mandated by government. So you have to follow the rules. Like privacy policy is more like a compliance thing than anything else. But the issues that I have had with clients is that in the event their business gets hacked, which unfortunately is more frequent for small businesses that maybe aren't thinking about data or privacy protection, this is going to be your safeguard. So I went through something with a client where all their information got hacked. All the information they shared with third parties got hacked. Their clients were freaking out, saying that they're going to hold the studio responsible. Hey, we're really sorry about this information. We acted as prudently as we could once we figured out that there was some form of, data invasion. Also, please note the privacy policy. We followed the appropriate laws when we had the privacy policy listed on our website. We listed all of these parties to let you know, okay, this is the information we collect and we share. And, we're here to support you in how this process goes. And that's also that's like legal position, right? When you don't have anything, or you've just like copied someone else's privacy policy, and God forbid you're in a situation where you need it, it's always well, I'm a big law of attraction guy. Like I love Esther Hicks and I study law of attraction every day. So I don't want to say like, imagine yourself in this situation, because I don't want to attract anything negative to any of us. But what I do want to say is that when problems come up for my clients, the question I always ask them is, send me a copy of the signed or customized agreement. So just keep that in mind. I don't imagine anything bad happening, but just know that if a problem does come up, your lawyer, the first question they're going to ask, and they want to help you, they want to do everything they can for you, it's going to be, please send me a copy of the signed agreement that you have that outlines that you were sharing, right? Because it's not with the company itself, but maybe if, oh, I transferred it to this third party and they were the one who got hacked, but I'm only using them because they came through you. You want to have these things taken care of. And then the last agreement that we include in the typical 4 package for a yoga professional is a social media disclaimer. So remember I was talking about duty of care. It applies to social media as well. It's not as strong as if someone's in front of you and you're practicing with them. You have a higher standard of care there. But you have to know that if you're going out on social media, or you're posting on YouTube, or you're making videos, or you're including dietary recommendations, or you're talking about how great turmeric is for alleviation of joint pain in your clients, or whatever it is that you're doing, we all now have our own soapbox with social media. You need to tell people you need some form of legal documentation to protect yourself. So typically social media disclaimer is something that we include with we include it at the bottom of a privacy policy on the website. If you've got a social media with a link tree, we post it there. If you make YouTube videos, we have a YouTube disclaimer. But basically it's a document that says, hey, I'm showing these yoga poses to you, or I'm sharing this information with you, and do so at your own risk. Make sure that you consult a medical professional before you're doing this. And, you're responsible for anything that happens. You're responsible for facilitating the safe practice of this, all that sort of stuff. Usually it's just written the same way a privacy policy is. So because of the nature of how social media works, like if someone's looking at your live story, it can't be like, hey, click here I agree to this social media disclaimer before watching the story. That's not how it works. I would say fortunately and unfortunately, but the sort of best protection that you can have in place is going to be that social media disclaimer that says like, hey, these are my qualifications. I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher. Anything else that I speak about, I have no qualifications. Please refer to a medical consultant, professional medical consultant, before taking action on anything that I share. and you know, and this is where I studied and this is what I do. But you just also what you'll find as well. So that's sort of social media disclaimer, and then I'll just sort of sum up with anything, you know, with a I'll bring it in for a landing before we hop into Q&A with just a couple minutes left, with 10 minutes left. But the thing about all of these documents is that the question is not how many of your clients will actually read this. That's not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility that my clients are making sure that every student actually reads the waiver of liability that they sign. The waiver of liability has something that in it that says, you know, I agree, I've had a chance to, you know, speak to an independent legal counsel before signing this, and that I've done so. And once they sign it, they're bound. It's not a problem. So it's the same with the social media disclaimer. It's not my problem if someone doesn't read it or anything like that. What I care about is just that first response once there's an issue. That was the first thing that I talked about how the law works for and against yogis. An issue comes up, and the first thing that I'm going to say is, please send me a copy of the signed agreement. So with all of that being said, I'm super happy to share that I have, hey, Lizzie, I'm just going to chat about the special offer we have today, and then we'll hop into questions. Based on everything that I shared, we have a special that we're doing with beYogi just for today. So this offer, and Lizzie, I'm going to send it to you. This expires tonight at midnight. So if you're watching a recording, I'm sorry, it's unavailable to you, but just to everyone who's on the call. And this is a package of 4 documents. Normally the cost is $3,288. If you sign up today, we take $400 off for anyone who participated in the webinar. And the cost is $2,888. So within this, you can choose any of the 4 agreements that we have that I've spoken about or that are on our menu. And just a little bit about how our process at Conscious Counsel works. Once you sign up, you'll get a welcome email. You'll join the family. You'll choose your 4 agreements. We offer 3 months of unconditional and unlimited edits, support, and revision around the documents. So we work with you to customize it 100%. We hop on a call to make sure that you love your documents so you have no questions. And then 3 months, I'm on your team. Anytime you want to have a call with me, any questions you have, if an issue comes up, we help resolve it. And then for everyone who is our client, let's say a problem comes up afterwards, just shoot me an email. Like I don't charge an arm and a leg to support existing clients. The reason why I do this is to help. And then also, I don't think you'll have a chance to see it, but our law firm has more than 340 5-star Google reviews. So we get to 5-star reviews with everyone we work with. And the way that we do that is just offering unlimited support, revisions, everything. Like A, your family, you're one of us. I'm going to do everything I can for you. And B, we get 5 stars because we support you the whole way and we make sure that you're satisfied. And if it's 99% done, I'll say, what can we do to make the 1% difference? So with all of that, it's been a lot of information. I'm going to take a breath, and Lizzie's going to share some questions that we have.
Yep. Thanks, Cory. I just wanted to also mention, I also added the link for your legal agreements giveaway, just as a reminder, and popped that in there. Yes, I have a few questions coming in, but in this time we have about 5 or 6 minutes. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I also did want to mention we are recording this, and this will be sent out tomorrow. So like Cory said, all of the special offers and things like that, you know, is for you guys here live today, but you will be able to see and watch this tomorrow and days after that. Okay, so we had a question about yoga therapy. Pat asks, will you be addressing issues that solo yoga therapy practitioners CIAYT deals with in waivers? So yeah.
So basically, the specifics for yoga therapy, it's a little bit different, and sometimes for yoga for therapy, we draft disclaimers specifically about it. And the big thing is always about scope of practice whenever we're talking about anything that's therapy related, right? So it's going to be, hey, these are our qualifications. This would also be in the service agreement. These are the qualifications that we have. This is where we studied. This is what we do. This is not a replacement for actual therapy. You know, before working together, we recommend that you consult a medical professional who understands. In the event that there's any crisis that you're in, here is a crisis hotline number of something that you can reach, or just putting as many practical tools and safeguards as we can as possible into the agreements, so that anyone who's working with you, again, communication of expectations openly and honestly. They understand who you are, they understand what you do, and and all of that sort of taken care of in that particular way. It's very common that we have clients who have a secondary, like they have one license. So let's say they're a registered nurse, but they also love doing yoga on the side. And they want to make sure that there's no conflict between the two different things that they do. And that's why having that separate set of agreements to be like, hey, this is exactly what we do. This is how we do it. This is the scope. These are the recommendations that we make before we start working together. This is not a replacement for actual therapy or medical professional help or anything like that. So that, God forbid, if there is a problem, you can really easily be able to demonstrate, hey, before you and I started working together, you agreed to all of these agreements. You understood that it was not medical professional help. I told you that I'm not a registered therapist, but instead, in the service agreement, here is what we will be doing together through our yoga therapy. And I outlined it there. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, just to follow up, Noelle asked, do you work with licensed clinical therapists? Is that one of your...
Yeah, we can. I have in the past. It depends on the scope of the project and what specifically you're looking for, but we do work with licensed professionals. Yeah, with pleasure.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Another question, and this has again to do with liability waivers. What is the difference if you are working as an independent contractor when it comes to liability waivers?
So you, as an independent contractor at law, typically an employee is covered by the employer through something called vicarious liability, which no one needs to remember, but at law, the idea is that employee is covered under the employer. Now, for independent contractors, that's not always the case. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to review the independent contractor agreement that you've signed to see if there are clauses which will protect you. So it's a tricky situation because often we have independent contractors who teach at a studio that has a very bad waiver of liability. And if something were to happen, they're responsible. So the practical answer to that question is, and would be to speak to your boss and get clarity, like, hey, if someone, being a total normal person, hey, if someone gets injured in class, am I covered under your waiver of liability? The next question is like, an insurance, beYogi, we're in the right place at the right time. You making sure that you're covered for operating in the way that you do and checking in with beYogi on that to ensure that everything is aligned in that particular way. The other implications, I mean, if it's just for the waiver, that's all that it is. It's about, are you the one responsible? Typically, if someone gets injured at a studio, and they're going to sue them, they would name both the teacher and the company of both the studio. So it's really, really important for you to have a contract in place with your studio that says, hey, if someone gets injured, this is where responsibility falls, and we'll cover all the legal expenses to protect you. But as a contractor, that's less likely, and it's more likely for an employee.
Got it. Thanks, Cory. All right. I think we only had a couple more. So this one's about the disclaimer and more so on the social media disclaimer. But they asked, we can also add the disclaimer to our website, right? Not just on the social media platforms, or is that different?
Yeah, so it should, in an idea, again, because all of these things were made before social media came about, it's sort of like reverse engineering. So the best place to put a social media disclaimer would be one, as a footer on your website. And then two would be if you have a link tree or any form of way for people to navigate through your social media.
Got it. All righty. Well, no one has asked another question since, one just popped up. Are you suggesting we both? So Roy asks, this is a great question. Are you suggesting we need both the 4 agreements and beYogi, or other yoga insurance?
Yeah, I would say my answer is 100% yes to that question. For me, law and insurance are sort of like two peas in a pod that go together and complement each other very well. Law is going to sort of be the first line of defense to mitigate any issues or any problems that can come up. Everything that I shared about, like being able to have a problem that could derail your efforts and your time and everything, to just having it in a 4-minute email, like the price of that it's priceless in and of itself. And then you always want insurance as well, so that you're protected. You know that someone has your back in the event that something didn't get signed or something really strange happened or whatever it is. But we're talking about all of your assets here and the assets of your LLC. If you operate as a sole proprietor, it's all of your personal assets that are at stake as well. So really the point here is to have great relationships, to communicate openly and honestly, and to make sure that you're protected in all the things that you do. So Roy, they complement each other very, very well in helping keep you safe and communicate your expectations.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing, Cory. I think we've answered it all. We just, don't forget to interact with Cory. He has his giveaway going on. If you're able to get a consult, that's amazing. We will be sending out the recording plus all of the links and etc., all of the good stuff in an email tomorrow. So pay attention to that. And lastly, I'm going to put this in the chat real quick. Don't forget to check out our Yoga Month webinars and content. We're doing it all month long, 4 webinars, 1 per week on all different themes. So we're talking about, yoga niches, accessibility, etc. So I'm posting that right now. And thanks, Cory, again for joining. Loved it so much. And it's always a pleasure to have you.
Lizzie, I'm happy that your eyes are still open. If everyone can just write the word fun into the chat if you had fun. I had such a blast. Thank you for the opportunity. It's so cool to empower and share information, and I'm here to support everyone, okay?
Amazing. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, Lizzie. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.